Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways, Homestead in the Desert. And we're looking at my PMA, my turbine spinning up there. And it may look a little bit slower than on the screen than it actually is. That's because I'm shooting at 60 frames per second and that thing is turning faster than that. Alright, so I had a question just recently about turbines and all about whether or not they're worth it. Well, I get a lot of wind out here, but like I said, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, there hasn't been hardly anything, but it's picking up a little bit today. But one point that I want to make about turbines, okay, you would think that at that speed up there that it's turning, that there would be a good production of electricity. Well, there really isn't, and that's a 1685 watt PMA. Well, look over here. Okay, this showing here what the output of that is right now. It's 0. Okay, well, look at 173359. Okay, so that's what it does in these light winds. When you I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, so any newcomers that didn't hear me when I said it the first time, or the second time, or the third time. When you look at a turbine, you see the ad, and the ad says 500 watt turbine. Okay, good till 60 mile an hour winds. All right. You see that in the ad, you think to yourself, wow, I'll never see 60 mile an hour winds, but I show it like an extra 500 watts of power. Well, if you'll never see 60 mile an hour winds, you'll never get 500 watts of power. Okay? What they're actually saying in the ad is that to get the maximum output of your turbine, you need the maximum wind. So that will produce 500 watts of power at a 60 mile an hour wind. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in an area that has constant 60 mile an hour winds. That's a little bit too much. Now you'll see over here, volts max, watt hours, amps peak, watts peak. Okay, so you see that at one point I put out 84 amps and 1269 watts. That was in a 43 mile an hour wind. Now mine is rated for 1685 watts maximum at 90 miles per hour. Okay, well, if I'm in a 90 mile an hour per wind, I'm not going to worry about how much that turbine's putting out. Okay, because I'm in a hurricane, and I get other worries if I'm in a hurricane. So just remember that when you're talking about turbines. All right, here I've got my rectifier, my bridge rectifier, and what that does is I'm using a PMA, not a PMG. That means that it's a permanent magnet alternator, not a permanent magnet generator. And the difference is the generator will have this little unit right here built into it up there and on top of the mast. And if you have a problem with that up there, you got to take the thing down off the mast to work on it. So I'd rather go with a PMA as the alternator because you put your bridge rectifier down here where you can get to it and work on it if you need to. I have a little CPU fan that runs constantly underneath it to cool it off, but I did put a switch on there so when I'm working on the batteries I can shut it off and not get my elbows caught in the blades. Okay, so you can also with an alternator you use smaller wire. I'm using 10 gauge wire coming from my PMA down here. Okay, if I was using a generator, I would probably be running 2 gauge. Yeah, probably 2 gauge down. So you save money when you're using an alternator. All right, so that all being taken care of now, I want to show you my batteries right now are in really good shape, and I'm floating on this set of batteries right now. That's the Trojans down here. I've got 13.8 in them on a float, and the watts and amps, of course, are down because it doesn't need anything right now. It's floating, and I'm bringing in 106.4 volts off of those big panels out there. Got plenty of power, and I'm going to show you something else. You see those battery cable lugs? I buy those so I can make up my own battery cables or repair battery cables as I need to. Now, some of these ones down here with the alligator clips on them, those come with the Harbor Freight panel controllers, and those are PMA controllers. But I don't like those alligator clips, and you see why? They corrode. They corrode very quickly because you got dissimilar metals. Those are made of cheap tin, chromed tin, and you clamp them onto a lead post on the battery with copper connectors on the wires. So you build up a corrosion on those very quickly. And this one actually rotted right through at the pivot, so it wasn't making contact, so I put an extra one, a spare, over it to hold it until I can actually, I'm going to cut them off here. I'm going to put an eyelet on it and then bolt the eyelet onto the bolts directly, and I'll have a better connection on those. I also need to do some wiring corrections here because I've got my unit there, the wires coming down to it are going to the middle of the battery bank, instead of one on the positive on this end, one on the negative on that end. And that's the way you want to do it, so that you use this as one gigantic battery, and the power has to go through the whole set before it gets fed to your inverter. And the way I've got it, I'm drawing from two sides, but I'm taking the main draw off of these two, and that one on that side and that one on that side have to try to back feed to it. I'd rather have it the other way around, so I will be changing that and getting that corrected. I want to clean up the wiring in here anyway, but I've got other things that have been keeping me busy. So anyway, remember those battery cable lugs up there? Those are not cheap, and they're a pain in the neck to find sometimes. You go into automotive stores and they don't have the sizes you need or anything like that. So we're going to head on over to the shop, and I'm going to show you something that I've been doing for quite a while, and it seems to work very well, and it saves me some money. I love to save money, honey. All right, so we're going to go here into container 1. What's behind container number 2? All right, so what I do is I make my own cable lugs. I save pieces of copper like this whenever I come across them. Something like this. This is copper tubing, and I got some more here that I've come across over the years, and I've saved them different sizes. This is a really small 1/4-inch OD. This is a 5/16 OD, and this is a 1/2-inch OD, and I've got some 7/16 and all the different sizes. So when I've got to make a cable lug, I'll cut a section off of this, the length I need. I'll bream the end out on one end where the wire's got to go in, and then I'll put it on my vise here or on the anvil, and I'll flatten it out, and I'll make it like this. Okay, so first I put it this way, and I hammer it down, and then I put it right up against the edge right there, and I hammer it again to flatten it. Then I can take it into the other room where the drill press is and drill a hole through it. Now I drilled a 3/8 hole through this one, so this would actually be a 5/16 lug. Although I could probably rat tail file it out a little bit if I had to, so I could fit it over a 3/8 slug. But most of the batteries I use are all 5/16, so I go to a 3/8, which is a little larger, so it fits over really well. I see this is nice and clean and shiny, and this was cut off of right there. Okay, you see the fresh cut there, the tubing cut. And why is it nice and shiny? Well, what I do is I save these little trays here from packaging. If they've got a little hollow area like that, I drop this in there, and then I poured some Tarnex on it, the tarnish remover. And I keep Tarnex around, and I keep also Bright Boy around, because I reload my own ammo. And sometimes when I'm out prospecting, I'll find a bunch of empty shell casings laying around. I'll pick them up and bring them back, and I'll clean them up. I'll put them in my vibrator polisher, and I've also got a sonic polisher that I can put Tarnex or whatever in there. Oh, that one's going to get coated again. But yeah, I can clean these things up, and really nice, and I do that with my brass for reloading. But then, now this is either crimp or solder on. And for solder on, you want to clean the inside really well so that when you do solder it, the solder actually holds and you get a good contact on the inside. But that's how I make my own lugs. Isn't that cool? All right, so we're getting up there in time, so I'm going to get ready to cut this off. I'll tell you one other thing I was doing. I went through my stuff that I have stored here, and I found my original first Radio Shack metal detector. And Radio Shack doesn't even exist anymore. It's been gone for quite a while. And I had wrote an I on this side and a G on this side, so it goes iron on ferrous and gold on non-ferrous side. And it's got some stains on it and that. But check this out. That's very low frequency, and it is on. So with this one, it's got a little button here in the top. So you bring it down to the ground, and you press the button, and that sets it to the ground that you're at, where your ground is. So then as you're going along and you get over metal, look at that. It pegged the needle as soon as I got over the unit. Now I noticed that the sound is out on this. I'm going to try plug-in headphones into it and see if they still get sound through the headphones. But this thing still works just fine. And this has all kinds of neat little adjustments on it. A ground, ferrous, non-ferrous lights, tuning on it. You can go VLF, which is very low frequency. That's what you want when you're going for gold. And TR1, TR2, when you're doing treasure relics or treasure hunting on a beach or whatever. So you TR1, TR2 for that. Then you got your discrimination knob, and you got your sensitivity knob. And then down here on the bottom, it had the volume knob. So pretty cool. It was interesting that it still works just fine. This one I bought a couple of years ago at Harbor Freight Tools. And this one is pretty cool too. You turn it on like that, and this one has the sound. And you got different settings on here for discrimination and tone. And then down here you got the sensitivity. And then on this one you got discriminate, all metal, or tone. Okay, so as you can see, this one still works. It's not the best in the world, but I always bring a bunch of different ones with me when I go prospecting, because you never know. You never know. Anyway, wanted to catch up on all that stuff. A beautiful day today. We got a possibility of rain tomorrow. They're saying just a trace, so it might be another 1/10 or 2/10 of an inch or something like that. But next week, after the weekend, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday right now, they're saying Monday would be rain, and it's up there in the close to 70% chance of rain on Monday. But then Tuesday, the temperatures are going to drop, and it's a chance of snow. And they're talking about possible a 1/4 inch of snow and a 1/2 inch of rain that day, or a 1/2 inch of rain. And then we got also the next day, Wednesday, where they're talking about a 1/2 inch of snow and 3/4 of an inch of rain. So there's a storm heading in, and it's going to be a 3-day storm. So we'll see what kind of water I get out of that. I'll see if I can get some pictures. I'll come out here and see if we can capture 5 or 6 million snowflakes coming down and see if they are all different. No, we won't. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me. Don't forget your thumbs ups down there. Don't forget to subscribe. And for some of you out there, if I haven't answered you, it's because for some reason I see your comment pop up, and as soon as I click on it, it says this comment has been removed. I don't know if you're removing it because you found out your answer was already in the video, or if there's a problem with YouTube. So leave me a comment below and let me know if yes or no that you're not taking your own comments off. G-Bear signing off.